Hi everyone, it's Friday, March 6th, and I'm here to say hello. Welcome to your weekend. And also, just to talk a little bit, I had put up a poster a little while ago, and then I put on my story um, yesterday about the Saturn Return workshop that is coming up here in Toronto. And I've had some people asking what that means because it's a term that they've heard used a lot, kind of like Mercury retrograde. And like, is this something I'd be interested in? And what is it? Anyway, Saturn return is basically every planet takes a different amount of time to go around the sun. And the zippiest one is Mercury. And then, there's Venus, and then us at 365 days and 1/4. And then Mars, which is roughly a couple years, and Jupiter, which is every 12 years. And then you get to Saturn, and it is approximately every 28 to 29 years. It makes a full orbit around the sun. So in our particular charts, when we're born, you take that first breath, and it's basically a snapshot of the heavens. So every planet is at a particular degree and minute at the time that you're born, and that snapshot is taken. And then, Mars will be at a certain degree, Neptune, Pluto, and they move very, very slowly. So not such a big deal. But the moon, super super zippy, is moving a full sign every 2.5 days, whereas Saturn spends about like 2.5 years in a sign, 2.5, sometimes 3. It really depends. And So that moves, well, you can kind of, and it goes into retrograde for portions of the year and stuff like that. It when it comes all the way around in your chart, it being the great teacher of the zodiac, it was always known kind of as the great malefic or taskmaster of the zodiac, but I like to kind of just call it a teacher. So depending on what time you were born and what degree and minute, it will come back to that natal position at about every 29 years in your lifetime. And when it's approaching the degree that it was at, when it's a couple of degrees out from that, that's when you can start to feel a transit. So transits you can feel when they're a couple degrees away from making the exact aspect, conjunction, this would be called. And then you can feel them even a degree after they've passed the natal position of your planet. So that natal position of your planet remains fixed forever. We call that your astrological blueprint or the natal promise. But then the planets keep moving, and when they make aspect to each other, whether that be a conjunction, which is very very close, or a sextile 60 degrees, a square, which is 90, an opposition, which is 180 degrees, and then there's other minor aspects in conjuncts and so forth. But those are the major kind of like aspects. When it makes those aspects, planet to planet, it has an effect. And Saturn to Saturn definitely has an effect. So you have your Saturn return, and this is the first time that you have had Saturn has gone all the way around, your chart, starting at its natal position, and then about 7 years from that, it will square itself, and then 14 years from that, it will make an opposition to itself, and then 21 years from that, you'll get another square on the other side, and this is your first conjunction on your first Saturn return. And that happens usually for people between the ages of 27 and 29. And that's the big first turn of the compost heap. That's when a lot of people start considering big questions about what has my life meant so far. Am I in the right relationship? Am I in the right job? Is this the right place for me to be living? Like, do I want to commit here? Do I want to buy here? So those become very major questions during your first Saturn return, and it's why they say people over the age of 29 are markedly more mature, because it's kind of like they have gone through the first major testing period in their lives, and after that, it's kind of like a piss or get off the pot time of life. And it can be easier or harder. It's always going to be difficult for you depending on the natal placement of your Saturn, because Saturn prefers to be in certain signs and not others. And it also when at the time of your birth might be making a hard aspect to another planet, or it could be making easy aspects to other planets. So that would be, a more difficult Saturn, or, a Saturn that is functioning really well. And when you have major aspects happening to that planet, they won't be quite as rough. So yeah, we always say, every astrologer will say, Saturn really, really wants you to do the work and reward you for hard work. But I think it's important to keep in mind that some people's hard work is harder than others. So that's something that is really worthwhile to go and speak to an astrologer about, to kind of know, especially during your Saturn return, would be a wonderful time to go see an astrologer, or to come to a Saturn return workshop. And by the way, out of the people who've bought tickets so far, most of them are actually experiencing their second Saturn return, which happens around 58 years of life. And yeah, that's a very different vibe to it, because it's your second time having that major conjunction, and you've been through all those squares and oppositions one more time. So it sometimes reviews lessons, because if at around 29 there's major questions that come up and you choose to double down even though you know you really shouldn't, a lot of times at 58 you don't get that choice anymore. um, so yeah, it's another very significant time. And then you know um, Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now is coming into her third Saturn return as is Gloria Steinem. So that comes, in your later 80s, and that can be another majorly significant time. Not quite as significant, because then you're just, figuring out, what do I want to do with my last few years, kind of a deal. But anyway, that is an explanation of what does a Saturn return refer to. And we'll be having the workshop on March 28th. My colleague Lena Grosso and I. It promises to be something really special. We're doing a lot of planning with it this week, so it's going to be 3 hours, and we are, we have some fun stuff planned, and we're going to do a bit of a deep dive and use a lot of example charts that will be known people. And then we're going to break, and then there's two other astrologers joining us, and we're going to do mini readings for people who want to stay and sign up for that. But the workshop itself is like $28, and it's right at St. George Station at a place called Alternity Cafe. So if you're in Toronto, or you're going to be around Toronto at that time, please, please, please come and attend. It's going to be so much fun, and we're super excited. And that is all for now. I will see you guys soon.